Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 30, 2024 meeting of the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board. Our secretary is going to be late, so I'm going to ask the vice chair to please take roll.
Chair Delaney.
Here.
Vice Chair Pintar is here. Bonnie Kink is running a little behind. Dr. Brown.
Here.
Andrew Hayes. Nadia Keen Ayub.
Here.
Ariana Federico Mondragon. Tim Ware. G.I. Wilson.
Here.
We do.
We have a quorum. Okay, next will be public comments. If you have not filled out a slip to speak, please see Norris over there. Mr. Parker, can you go ahead and?
Thank you, Chair
Call.
Delaney.
Mhm.
First, we will call Sabrina Weddle. No, we will not. Okay, next we will call. Let's go to Mr. Cerner, Michael Cerner. You want to go first?
Good evening. First off, I would like to thank you all for your service and being here tonight. As we walked into the building this evening, I did see the quote that was out in the front that's embossed on the front of the building, and it says, "Good government demands the intelligent interest of every citizen." I do believe that is a very true statement, but it not only takes the citizenry, it takes all of those who are upholding the government, all of those who are employed by the local government, all of those who are involved in the everyday aspects of its government. Here in San Diego County, we've seen time and time again the apathetic attitude by those sheriffs, medical staff, and those that are in charge of the incarcerated people in our county jail systems. Tonight, not only am I here, but others are here also who have the same story as me. We're all here in accordance with one another to stand up and thank you all, the citizens of this county, those who represent the CLERB, the Citizen Review Board. It is you that continually, time and time again, contribute your intelligence, your efforts, and your hard work to finding out truth, to finding out the facts, to going after and questioning those who time and time again balk at their responsibilities, who turn around and look the other way when horrible things happen around them. Here I am in the middle of a trial of those who are accused of being negligent in my daughter's death. And let me tell you, it goes way further than negligence. It is outright homicide. The way they left my daughter there on the floor to die, the way they all stammer, the way they all hem and haw and point the fingers at one another. It is up to the citizenry here of San Diego County, time and time again, to get past all of the blame game, to get past all of the cover-ups, to get past all of the apathy, and to get to the truth. Tonight, we're here. We've come as a collective group to stand up and to say no more should it go on. The sheriffs that continually stand around and let their co-workers commit horrible acts. Let their co-workers continue on with treating our loved ones as second-class citizens just because they don't come from the same background as them. Maybe they have experienced situations where people have maybe insulted them or the like. That doesn't give them the right to leave our loved ones to die. That doesn't give them the right to contribute to our loved ones' death by bringing in drugs into the jail system. That doesn't give them the right to lie for one another. That doesn't give the sheriff the right to turn away and to continue to let things be the way they've been for years. Tonight, we're here to say no more will we let it go on. I thank you all for your participation in these groups. There are so many stories I could highlight, but I think of one, Kevin Mills. A man that was clearly not, he had mental issues.
Mr. Cerna, unfortunately, 3 minutes is up.
Okay,
Thank you.
but I would like to walk away, but my story doesn't end with me. Because every person that's gonna follow me has the same story.
Thank you, Mr. Cerna. Ms. Cerna.
I'd like to thank the board once again for letting us appear before you. I want to know when will Kelly Martinez attend the CLERB meetings? We've been asking for months. We have lots of questions to ask her. We need to continue to ask Kelly Martinez to scan all persons entering jail facilities. Despite the sheriff department are scanning inmates using special equipment for drug detections on inmates' mail using canines at inmates' location. Not only does the sheriff department need to do the safety checks on time, but make sure there is a sign of life. In Elisa Cerna's case, Corporal Tony Hall Bennett walked past Elisa's cell 5 to 6 times as Elisa died. And Hall Bennett never checked for proof of life, as video evidence showed. There is a systematic failure. We need transparency. We need to change the statute of limitations on deaths. When family files a wrongful death claim on the San Diego Sheriff Department, the Sheriff Department withholds names of deputies and medical staff, making it harder for families to sue the Sheriff Department. We are still waiting for information on the death of Kevin Mills, Matthew Settles, and Patricia Adamson, who I will be the next of kin if I have to be, to get answers. CLERB needs to continue to fight to have jurisdiction over the medical staff. The medical employees of the San Diego Sheriff Department are as much accountable for the deaths of our loved ones. The medical staff has a duty of care to their patient. They are their patient, our loved ones, our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, our mothers. We need, like my husband has stated, we need this to stop. I ask the clerk to continue to do the right thing, and we appreciate each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Deanna. I believe you can. Yes. Mr. Cerna.
Just like I was talking about Kevin Mills. Here was a man that was mistaken just because of a clerical error. He died because of a clerical error. He had no business being in the county jail. He should have been in a state facility, a hospital, somewhere where he could have got the treatment that he needed. This reminds me, I wish I could have had the time to look it up and find the man that died. His name died before my daughter Elisa. I was told he had the same symptoms. He was found in the same manner, in a cell, in his own filth. See, that's what I'm talking about. It goes on and on and on. That's why we're here over and over again. I know, I've heard the comments tonight. It looks like we're in for a long night because we showed up. Whether we're going to be here for a long time or not, that shouldn't matter because you're here to do your business. You're here to do your jobs. For this reason, we're here tonight. Because we are not going to relent. We are not going to step away. We are not going to walk away, not just because of our loved ones, but because of the loved ones of so many citizens in San Diego County. People say, why do you go on? Why do you keep going? The county bullies us in, proceedings, trying to get us to just hurry up and shut up and settle. They bully us time and time again. They put our children in depositions and insult them over and over again. How dare so many people stand by? I know a lawyer just doing their job, representing their clients. But should they get away with standing by and letting wrong things happen? It seems like over and over again, I see too many people standing around, letting their coworkers, letting those that they serve the community with do wrong and say nothing. They do nothing. This is the reason why we're here. This is the reason why we continue to show up over and over again. 2 deaths already this year. What will the number be? How many more will go on this year? over and over again. Our hearts are pained. We have to cry and remember every time another person dies in the county jail system, because we know how the county jail and how its staff are failing the citizens of San Diego County. It needs to stop. And for this reason, we're here, not to harass, but to poke, to prod, to push, to encourage you all to press forward and do what's right, and not just stand around on the side of wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we will go to Sunday Weddle.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sunday Weddle. I'm here representing the North County Equity and Justice Coalition. As many of you know, I'm the mother of Saxon Rodriguez, who died July 20th, 2021 in Central Jail. When Saxon died, I immediately contacted CLERB. I believe it was within 7 days of his death, to open an independent and impartial investigation into Saxon's death. That was 2.5 years ago, and I recently reached out to CLERB to ask for the report regarding Saxon's death and investigation. Unfortunately, I was informed that the board decided not to provide me with a copy of that report. I was not given any reason as to why I'm being denied even a redacted report at this time. If I had known that 2 years ago when I spoke with Lenore Aldridge, I probably would have just reached out and focused my attention to search for truth and justice elsewhere. But instead I waited. I mean, that's really all we can do, is wait. Or file wrongful death lawsuits. I mean, we don't have the legal power to obtain any information or evidence into our loved ones' deaths. Time and time again, we have been promised transparency and trust, and this just doesn't feel like trust to me. This feels like another kick while I'm down and keeping my wounds open. And really all I want is to heal. I can only assume that maybe there's information in that report. Maybe it targets where the fentanyl came from, how the fentanyl and other lethal drugs continue to get into the jail. Perhaps you know where it comes from and you don't want us to know. But honestly, if it was your child, if it was your dead son, would you not continue to show up? Would you not continue to press for answers and truth and transparency into your child's death? I really want that CLERB report. It's important to me for healing and closure and justice for Saxon. And if I can't have that, I mean, at least an explanation as to why I can't have access to that report. Also asking for transparency for Paul Silva, Elisa Serna, Kevin Mills, Omar Moreno Arroyo, Raymond Vogelman, Gilbert Gill, Matthew Settles, Pedro Jr. Ornelius III, and of course, Saxon Rodriguez. May he rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may, Ms. Weddle, I will publicly say and address your comments because I am permitted to do so. Ms. Weddle, I have tried. We as a CLERB and staff, all we do is push for transparency. That's all I'm here to do. That's all I want to do. That's the only reason I even think I'm here. And that's the only reason as you know, with SB 519 and other issues that we have pushed forward with the policy recommendations that we've made to the Sheriff's Department to be as transparent as possible. Unfortunately, because of the laws in the state, I provided a completely redacted copy of Saxon Rodriguez's report to several counsel, when we had county counsel and when we have our outside counsel. And unfortunately, what we're told is, because what we wanted to do, and I have no shame in saying this, we wanted to take our reports and release them completely, not just the paragraph, the actual report that we do, and redact the portions that we could to comply with the applicable laws. And we were told that Unfortunately, it looks like if we were to do that, we would be liable. We would be violating the law. So I will tell you, as much as I feel for you, I've not walked in your shoes. We have tried, and this chair and this vice chair and these board members and this staff will continue to push for transparency whenever we can. I promise you that, as long as I'm here. Okay? And as long as this board is here.
I'll continue to try as well. I mean, it would be great to address the powers that be that have that decision. Maybe we need to show up.
It's the lawmakers. It's the lawmakers that have that. Okay? So thank you. Thank you. Sabrina Weddle.
Hello and good evening. My name is Sabrina Weddle. As most of you guys know, I am the older sister of Saxon Rodriguez, who died July 20th, 2021 in San Diego Central Jail. Unfortunately, we have already had 2 deaths this year in a matter of 11 days. One man had only been in custody for a matter of 24 hours before, what we seem to think is a drug overdose. And again, 24 hours into custody when they go through a scanner, and I'm going to continue to say it, bend over and cough. Unless that's changed, again, 24 hours, how did he access drugs? It's crazy how about 45 people have died since Saxon has died. 45 people. I've been here doing this for about 2.5 years. I'm so tired of saying the same thing over and over again. It's the same, sob story to you guys. And I'm glad that I didn't hear any comments of, oh, it's going to be a long night. Because honestly, I was going to bring you guys some coffee. And I've also been saying I'm ready to turn this and talk to who represents the sheriffs back there. Because Kelly Martinez needs to show up. I'm not too sure if she's getting the message that she sucks, but she sucks. The San Diego sheriffs are not doing what they need to be doing to prevent lives from dying. And it's sad that I am only allowed to tell the CLERB this and not the San Diego sheriffs, who are actually on payroll, not doing their job. It's ridiculous. And I don't even know half of your guys' faces. So if we can get an introduction of you guys, that would be wonderful, especially because you guys are the ones reporting back to Kelly Martinez that she sucks. And every interview that I'm in follows by Kelly Martinez. So I know she knows who Sabrina Weddle is. 2 deaths. Again, drug overdoses. At what point will we scan who is on payroll supposed to be preventing these lives? Because it is going to be a long one. It probably will be I've seen the agenda for this evening, and we should have been here last month. Because in February, when we come back, I hope that meeting doesn't get canceled. How many more lives will be lost? We're gonna be here forever. Until the back row, the messengers back there, tell Kelly Martinez that she needs to get the ball on the roll. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any additional requests to speak in public. Oh, okay. And your name?
My name is Grace John.
Ms.
So,
John, your time starts now.
Mr. Parker, thank you very
Thank
much. I'd actually like to cede my time back to Sabrina Weddle.
Very well. Ms. Weddle.
I honestly feel like Saxon blessed me with the fact that I got the San Diego Sheriff's report, thanks to Aldo, who got a nice promotion right after he gave me that report. So the deputies, Brian Powell, Andrew Randovich, Maxwell Rimple, and Andre Wanzer will never be held accountable. But every time I get in front of this mic, I will continue to say those names. 4 deputies that day on July 20th, 2021, 4th floor, Team 2 could not do their job. They checked my brother at 65 minutes and 28 seconds. And I know that because that came from a CLERB report that was released to the media that I was able to screenshot. That's how I get the CLERB report information, when it's released to the media. And I will screenshot it and save it in my little documents I got. Melissa Burns, Reggie Barreto, Carrie Cavello, Rita Encarnacia, Caitlin Hendricks, Marlena Banza, Kelly Payne, Levy Santos, and Chantel Williams, 9 nurses that were also there the day my brother died. Could not save him because he was already dead. The last thing I told my mom before she told me my brother was dead is, I want to go to his court date tomorrow. She showed up at my house to tell me my brother had been dead all day. And to think that 45 other families have felt the same exact way while all their family members sat in jail for a court day. I wanted to go to Saxon's court day because I knew he didn't commit the crime that they accused him of. Yet these deputies, they got blood on their hands. And my brother was in jail for what? Maybe showing his penis? Again, Brian Powell, Andrew Randovich, Maxwell Rimple, Andre Wanzer, and let's not forget that Melissa Burns stated the best place to get treatment for an overdose is in jail. She got on the CLERB meeting and stated that. And that's why the medical staff doesn't want to be overseen. I wonder how many times Melissa Burns has been in an incident where she failed to prevent life-saving measures. Thank you.
Thank you. And in reference to that, Ms. Weddle, just so you're aware that when we release information, the only information that we're permitted to release is the extremely highly redacted rationales that the family members, any interested party and the media all get that same snapshot paragraph of each allegation. So just so everyone knows, that is unfortunately our limitation as to what we can release. Okay. Next, we will go to Karen Remus.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Good evening, CLERB members. My name is Karen Remus. My pronouns are she, her, and I was born, raised, and currently reside in San Diego County. 3 days ago, the Union Tribune published a horrifying article about in-custody deaths within the San Diego County jails. CLERB, I know you were trying to make things better. Unfortunately, you do not have the tools needed to bring an end to the continuing tragedies happening within our county jails. Tonight, I implore you to take actions that are well within your charter, but which you have not yet employed. First, hold a press conference where you draw public attention to the systemic failures within the county's jail system. You've got the reports and data. You've heard from the families of the victims. Now use your voice to sound the alarm and galvanize support for desperately needed change. Second, reach out to both the County Board of Supervisors and state level officials and ask them to immediately intercede. You do not have the means to bring about the seismic change needed to stem the tide of death in our county jail system, but you can and now must ask for help from those who do have those means. Let the memories of Dominique McCoy, Lonnie Rupert, and so many others guide your path forward. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Remus. In reference to your comment about a press conference, CLERB will be making its first ever press release tomorrow morning, and you'll just have to wait to see what that press release is about. But we are going to continue to do everything we can to be as transparent as possible. So we will start that. That'll be our first one tomorrow. Next, we will go to Dr. Fishman.
Good evening. Thank you. Darwin Fishman, he, him, his, Racial Justice Coalition of San Diego. Hopefully you can all hear me. I'm just really moved again by the impacted families and sharing their testimony. And I want to actually change gears and just share this. It hits really hard to hear them what they're sharing and having to come to CLERB and knowing that you're very limited in what you can do. And thank you, Paul Parker, for your leadership and stepping up and trying to do more. And obviously you're continuing to be ignored and dismissed by the Sheriff's Department. And structurally they can get away with that. I just want to say, I don't typically talk about this. It's like the thing of dark wounds and pushing it away. But for this meeting, I mean, I've got to say, I've been arrested. I've spent time in jail. I was arrested and spent time in Santa Cruz jail, Oakland, and San Francisco. And I remember, and this was almost 30 years ago. It was over 30 years ago. I still remember to this day that when I was in jail in Oakland, that the law enforcement there literally had a game and were making fun about the jails that they put us in. And it was a time of AIDS, and they actually said things like, that guy's got purple splotches. How about we put you there? We take for granted that when you're arrested and you're at the hands of your jailers, that kind of power they have. And the thing is that, to put it bluntly, not everyone in there is good and follows the protocols and regulations. And it obviously can end in really deadly consequences. And I say all that because at the end of the day, CLERB, you do have a responsibility with the civilian oversight. I'm really glad to hear that you're going to have a press release. Arguably, obviously that should have been done much earlier. I was on the CRB and we knew about the press release. For that matter, we had our own back and forth with the mayor's office, and we decided not to publicly embarrass him. I understand when you do the press conference, you potentially risk jobs for staff and also getting a black eye for your organization in terms of how you're being treated by elected officials. I hope that you appreciate, though, when you do that and you take these courageous stands, that you're doing this for the impacted families in the community that supports them and loves them with this, and don't want to see more people end up like this. And last thing I just want to say is, I'm reading the newspaper, the UT report, and seeing the latest in custody deaths. It is 2 in January. That is potentially on track for 24 in the year if it's 2 a month, and that would be a new record for San Diego. Enough is enough. Let's not wait till December and we're looking at 20 deaths. Let's stop this now. Let's take more steps. Thank you for your work. I hope you push forward.
Thank you. Next, we will go to, all I see is iPad 42. iPad 42, if you could identify yourself.
Hello.
iPad 42.
iPad 42 is Leslie Crawford. Raymond Vogelman was my son. I represent North County Equity and Justice, and I want to follow up on what I just heard. Earlier in this month, I read a quote from the Riverside County Sheriff, where he indicated when asked about the deaths in his jail, and they're trying to emulate San Diego, obviously, that they just happened to die inside his facility. Okay, he wasn't responsible for them. And then later on, I was going through my photos and throwing away documents on my phone, and I came across a picture of a text message that I was sent in October, the week my son died. And the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, their response was, well, he died by his own. And now my son was never in George Bailey before. He didn't have any gang tattoos. He was suffering from schizophrenia, but he didn't die of his own. He was attacked and murdered, but they didn't care. You might as well be talking about the Kansas City stockyards, because both Riverside and San Diego Sheriff's Department seem to think all the people in their facilities are cattle. They don't see them as humans. If you had a principal of a school say, well, that child was in our facility, but we don't know how it happened to him. Or we were in a hospital, well, that person died in that room, but they just happened to be in our hospital. You know, this is really important for you to have a press conference, because when they have press conferences, they things that really tell people that they have no idea that they have any kind of purpose other than just hurting livestock. I want to thank you for your work, but you need to keep going. And I know you have no power at the moment. I'm hoping that will come. But I'm really, really excited that you plan to have a press conference, because you've got to combat what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we're experiencing. The pain does not go away. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Colleen Cusack. Colleen Cusack.
Hello. Colleen Cusack. I've been a criminal defense attorney in the city and county for now over 30 years. I've been an educator for over 20 years. I was director of the Bail Project in 15, 20 years ago, and taught a course at California Western School of Law in conjunction with that. I find it very ironic as a defense attorney that this facility institution that's designed to hold persons accountable for the often minor wrongs, sometimes no wrongs at all, can't manage to hold those who are allowing them to die preventable deaths. So I'd like to give you some additional ideas for what you can ask. Specifically, you can ask that the San Diego County Superior Court judges that at the bail proceedings, that they start requiring prosecutors to prove that continued confinement in jail is worth the increased risk of death that now presents itself in these facilities. And on the tail end of things, when somebody is not presented in court, that's a violation of a court order. When a person is held in custody, that is with the order that they be lawfully presented to court at the next appearance. So the court could institute contempt proceedings and demand that the sheriff explain to the satisfaction of the court why that person was not presented in court as ordered, and make it public. And these could be criminal contempt proceedings. Just some other ideas to consider because it's gone on way too long. Just when you think it can't get worse, it does. It's horrid. We have a worse record of deaths than Rikers, and we have a third their population. There's no excuse except for the fact that there's been no accountability. So be creative, be expansive, and don't stop at no. Thank you.
And thank you. Next, we will go to Mackenzie Scott.
Hi, this is Marcus Borosaw. I'm an attorney at Mackenzie Scott. I guess my Zoom profile turns up that way, but I'm excited to be there in person for future meetings. I'm a civil rights and criminal defense attorney in town. And first, let me echo everything everybody has said. I'm always heartened to see so many people from the public engaged in these meetings, and appreciate the board's sincere engagement as well. My hope is to echo one prior person's comments and ask about two things, or comment on two things that are within the board's power to change. The first has to do with the board's own transparency efforts, and in particular, the requirement that people submitting complaints promise not to subpoena CLERB for records or testimony. That promise is contained in the form CLERB requires from people. I question whether it's truly enforceable, but some courts have found that it is enforceable against folks who later decide to file civil rights actions and want, within the context of those cases where they are seeking justice, access to CLERB's records. I know in our firm, I've had some hesitation about submitting complaints and cooperating with CLERB alongside clients for exactly this reason. And it impedes CLERB's mission of encouraging people to submit those complaints. I know you mentioned some advice about compliance with state law and privacy rules. Insofar as that advice came from county council, they are conflicted. They are not in a position to give you independent advice. And when it comes to subpoenas, we're talking about court process where you could seek a protective order to comply. So the documents don't necessarily become public, but they aid the fact-finding mission of civil rights actions and assist in transparency for law enforcement as a result. So I asked the board to revisit that policy, take that language out of your complaint forms. It's not required by law. Next, more specifically, I think CLERB could be more proactive in trying to contact victims of police violence when they're jailed or charged. I've had multiple cases where clients received letters from CLERB seeking cooperation almost 7 months after the incident, and there was no effort to contact counsel of record in the related criminal case, which I think CLERB would have access to. And there was no effort to visit folks in person to see if they were willing to cooperate. That mail was held up in the jail mail system, perhaps to no one's surprise. It didn't reach the victim of police violence while they were being held in jail until too late. So those are two specific things I hope CLERB can address, and thanks for opening it up to public comment at every meeting.
Before we go ahead, I want to make just one comment, and that is to let you know that CLERB has its own council now, independent from the county.
If I may add on to Chair Delaney's comments, not only do we have our own council, we actually ran that by our own council and actually two parts of our outside council, and they came up with the same conclusion that county council had come up with. Reference to the complaint form language, that's something that outside council and I can obviously look at, because that's not been looked at by outside council. So that would be very helpful for us to do. We will do that. And then in reference to our investigators going out and being more proactive, I can tell you that we have an intake investigator specifically for that purpose. We're in the process of trying to hire another investigator to expand our investigative pool. So those are things that when we can go out, when we have the staffing and the time, we make that time. And just today, our intake investigator was at San Diego Central Jail, interviewing 2 people. So we are more active than we've ever been and more proactive than we've ever been with our staffing and responses. So thank you very much, Mr. Barosa. And next we will go to Tom Packard.
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
My name's Tom Packard. I'm a member of Showing Up for Racial Justice North County. I was delighted and encouraged to see in this meeting's agenda the word systemic used twice. I couldn't find the word used in any other agendas in recent months, even though many in the community have been emphasizing the systemic rather than the individual case perspective when looking at jail deaths. One observation in your report makes an important point about how problems in the jail should be framed and addressed. Your statement says, quote, CLERB's investigation suggests the need for systemic changes and improvements to prevent similar incidents in the future. There was insufficient evidence to either prove or disprove the allegation, unquote. This takes both an individual and a systemic perspective. You usually feel constrained to only look at the most technical aspects of an individual case. I hope your mandate allows you to take a broader perspective on how you make recommendations to the sheriff. Recommending screening all jail staff for drugs is an example of a systemic change that would not only address individual drug-caused deaths, but would also address deaths more broadly. Please keep pushing on that, by the way. Every jail death is, of course, unique, and clearly some jail deaths were totally beyond the sheriff's control. But there are systemic factors in the causes of jail deaths that the sheriff could look for if she seriously wanted to decrease deaths in the jails. As far as we know, the sheriff has not yet agreed to meet with the CLERB, and I don't know exactly what you have said to her to try to get her to attend. Please keep asking her to attend and insist that she do so, or give you an explicit no with her reasons for not meeting with you. There are clearly questions that the community has and that you probably have, which only she, rather than one of her representatives, could answer. Please keep pushing on this and keep us informed. We'd be happy to provide further input regarding how we see some of the systemic factors in jail deaths and other chronic problems, areas such as treatment of people with mental illnesses and disabilities. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Robin Sales. Ms. Sales.
Yes, thank you. Robin Sales, Showing Up for Racial Justice, North County. Thanks for your work. More thanks to the Cerna family, who after an exhausting day in court, came here to show you the humanity that has to be front and center in your work. Here we are again to exhort the CLERB and Executive Officer Paul Parker to press upon the Board of Supervisors to do something about the county's terrible record of treating incarcerated persons with dignity and respect. Considering that your latest sustained findings indicate that 2 of the 3 people who died in the jails, Mr. McCoy and Ms. Granillo, were not even supposed to be there. One needs to wonder about the culture of the sheriff's deputies, who can look away when another human is suffering. I know from working with the department that there are hardworking employees, but it's hard for me to wrap my head around what happens when the staff works in that setting. Secondary trauma is real, and working with hardened criminals can cause burnout. The sheriff's department says that they are focusing on the wellness of the staff, but I have to think they are not catching the trauma early enough, which must contribute to their wanton disregard for life. Or do they hire staff who are already hardened to fit their mold? Nowhere in the county jail improvements update from Kelly Martinez on January 5th of last year does she mention reform of jail culture. The Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors has developed a study team to make recommendations to the Sheriff's Department. I would like to know why our Board of Supervisors has not done the same. I would like to ask the CLERB to focus on and make recommendations as to the sheriff's hiring practices, their so-called wellness program, including recognition of signs of secondary trauma, and the training of deputies for that setting. I know that the county can do better, but the Board of Supervisors has to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Pat Warner. Pat Warner, are you there?
Muted. Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now.
Great. First, I extend thanks to the CLERB members and staff for your commitment to justice and for all the work you do in pursuit of that goal. I've lived in San Diego County for over 30 years, and most of my life's work has been as a hospital health professional. It's for this reason that I am appalled by the state of healthcare provided to those who are incarcerated in facilities maintained by the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. The CLERB's goal of including non-sworn jail personnel, which would include the medical personnel, under your purview is so important for the lives of the incarcerated, and I certainly hope you will have success with that issue. It was just heartbreaking to read details of the case brought by the family of Elisa Serna. The most basic principle of all healthcare is do no harm. Over and over again, it's been reported that jail personnel believe incarcerated individuals are, quote, faking their symptoms. Anyone who believes that is already perpetrating great harm. And anyone who abandons a person who has fallen and is not responding, as in Elisa's case, should be deeply ashamed of those actions and is certainly liable. More recently, details came to light in the case of Lonnie Rupard, who lost more than 1/3 of his body weight before he died in jail. Any health professional knows that weight loss is a red flag that needs to be investigated. And the fact that he had already been diagnosed with a mental illness just raises that red flag higher. I so deeply feel that every citizen of San Diego deserves to have a jail system that treats the people there in a humane fashion. I do not want to feel that by paying taxes here, we all end up with blood on our hands. I've spoken to a CLERB meeting several times before, but I have never felt as deeply about these issues as I do today. Please help. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I have one additional request to speak, but I don't see that person online. But if Zana Popovic is on, please raise your hand. Oh, Zana Popovic.
Hello, hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you. Thank
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and also thanks to your colleagues who forwarded me the link because I wasn't able to contact. So this is regarding Mr. Schultz's claim, number 59. I believe. As I expressed to the investigator, Miss Chiesa, there were additional factors that were not brought up in the complaint, and that is that there was a deputy who sort of gave a heads up to Andy that he would be attacked, and he expressed that concern to me, or he communicated that that warning to me over the phone, and also when I went to visit him in George Bailey. However, as Ms. Chiesa probably brought up in the investigation, I had a lot of concerns about the process and the privacy, and also we were worried that the deputy would not feel comfortable or safe to step up basically against his colleagues. At the same time, from what I understood, the process was not confidential enough, where even if he would feel courageous enough to say something on behalf of what occurred, it seemed like the whole process was very unlikely, and that is why we did not want to put the person who was looking after people in any unfortunate or disadvantageous circumstances. And I appreciate also all the work that the whole team did to do as much of due diligence as they could. And that's all I would like to say. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Chair Delaney, I have, it looks like three requests to read into the record. May I do so?
Of course.
First is from Dick Goldman. It was from an email that he wanted read into the record entitled, "Doesn't the board think it is time to ask the FBI and the US DOJ to investigate our non-transparent and potentially corrupt sheriff's department and jail operations? Are jail staff still exempt from going through scanning and screening to enter jails? What could they be afraid of? Does the chief still stonewall investigations and sharing of data? Doesn't the board's most recent findings of neglect of care call for aggressive action, further investigations, and a grand jury? Seems like a question of constitutional rights, malfeasance, and criminal breaches of duty. It's way past time for more action." Next is from Deidre McLeod. My name is Deidre McLeod, and I'm a constituent of Supervisor Anderson, District 2. My pronouns are she and her. After reading the UT article about tonight's closed session cases, I wrote a comment that was too angry to submit for reading into the record by staff. I'm angry that these brutal in-custody deaths continue to happen. Angry that so many of these findings are not sustained or summarily dismissed because your hands as an oversight body are tied. Angry that the only charges you'll be voting on tonight are minor policy updates that can't address the enormity of this problem. Angry that the department was quoted in the UT as only willing to accept your recommendations, quote, "when it makes sense," end quote. What doesn't make sense is the refusal to make real, impactful change in the wake of hundreds of in-custody deaths. Please, tonight, if there is anything else you can do to stop the mounting death toll, do it. And finally, from Debbie Kamens. My name is Debbie Kamens. I'm a 33-year resident of San Diego County and a member of the Racial Justice Coalition of San Diego. I'm highly concerned by the ongoing problem of San Diego County deaths in custody, which has not only been reported as the highest among large counties in California, but is made even worse by being about 30% higher than the second largest county. I and many community members are truly grateful for the CLERB's strong efforts to move the needle on these numbers, but it's troubling that these high rates of deaths resume year after year. And we've already begun this year with 2 deaths in January. I want our community to be protected from this awful threat to their lives and the lives of their loved ones. It's a threat that's only increasing citizens' fears of being approached by the sheriff's department. And why shouldn't they be that afraid in light of the abuse, neglect, and death that occurs at such high rates in San Diego County jails? This lack of safety and the inhumane treatment citizens experience is appalling. Please continue pushing for the increased safety of those in custody and for any staff coming into contact with them to be held accountable for jeopardizing that safety. And with that, with no other requests to speak and nothing else to read into the record, I turn it back to you, Chair Delaney.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for your comments and your input. They are important. And with that, Council, can you read us into closed session, please? Thank you.
Good afternoon or evening, Chair Delaney, members of the board. This evening's closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, and Release. We have, 24 cases. And that concludes my read-in.
Thank you very much. And we will see you all February 13th. We will, pardon me? For real. Thank you again. We'll resume in 5 minutes.